From the very first second of the episode 5 trailer, there's an unmistakable shift in tone. The light, wistful flirtations that once defined Benedict and Sophie's dynamic are replaced by something heavier, more urgent, as if every glance carries the weight of consequence. If part 1 of this season was about searching for love, searching for meaning, searching for a place in a world that seems too rigid to bend, then episode 5 feels like it's the reckoning. We've seen Benedict haunted by the memory of the mysterious lady in silver, drifting through balls and dinner parties with that same dreamy detachment that once made him the most romantic Bridgerton sibling. But now, the trailer shows that dreaminess cracking. His eyes are no longer dancing with possibility. They're shadowed with fear, with doubt. We've always known Benedict is a dreamer at heart, the artist who believes in something more than polite marriage plots and ledger-bound futures. But what happens when dreams demand a price the heart might not be ready to pay? That's the tension driving this episode. Sophie, on the other hand, has lived in a reality most of the ton will never grasp. From the moment we met her, stripped of status, pushed into servitude, forced to fight for every scrap of dignity, her story has grounded this season in an unvarnished truth. She doesn't float through society, she navigates it like a battlefield, every step calculated, every smile a mask, and the trailer makes it abundantly clear. She's reached a point where survival itself is no longer enough. There's a fire in her gaze, a kind of fierce determination that doesn't just challenge Benedict's gentle idealism, it demands he meet her in full, not half, not somewhere between fantasy and reality. The stakes have never been higher, and episode 5 promises to push both characters to their breaking points. What makes this trailer so compelling is how it refuses to let us settle. There are fleeting moments of tenderness, a brush of fingers here, a whispered plea there, but they're always undercut by tension. Every smile feels fragile. Every soft look feels like it might snap the moment the truth comes out. We've seen Sophie wrestle with her feelings before, quietly hiding them behind polite nods and cautious steps. But here, her resilience looks like it's morphing into defiance. It's no longer enough for her to survive the ton. She wants to change the rules of it. And Benedict, who once recoiled at the idea of anything less than grand fairy tale love, now looks as if he's being pulled between two worlds, the one he's always imagined and the one Sophie demands he truly see. Episode 5 doesn't just tease conflict between these two, it visualizes the very real danger of loving someone, when love itself could be the downfall of both. There's a moment in the trailer, just a heartbeat long, where Benedict stands alone in a candlelit hallway, breath visible in the cold air, eyes wide with something like dawning horror. It's as if he finally realizes that fantasy and reality aren't just different. They're fundamentally incompatible unless you're willing to sacrifice something deep and irrevocable. And Sophie? We see her standing on the edge of a garden at twilight, silhouette sharp against fading light, and in her eyes there's a question. Can you see me as I truly am, or will you keep chasing a dream that never belonged to you? That line, unspoken but unmistakable, is the heart of what this episode seems poised to explore. Fans have been divided, and this trailer seems to lean straight into that controversy. The proposal that shocked the ton, the restraint that wasn't restraint at all, the way this season has blurred the line between romance and raw, unfiltered emotional survival. It's all here, intensified. But what makes episode 5 feel different is that it doesn't just build on what we know, it threatens to upend it. Instead of soft glances across dancing couples, we see heated confrontations in dimly lit rooms. Instead of whispered promises, we hear urgent pleas and fractured sentences that suggest desperation more than hope. It's as if the ton itself is collapsing, and with it, every carefully crafted etiquette rule, every polite conversation about marriage prospects. The world of Bridgerton has always been spectacular, lush, enchanting. But this trailer shows us that beneath the silk and lace, there's a storm gathering, and episode 5 might be where the first thunder cracks. And just when you think it can't get more intense, there's a moment, a single frame, that makes your heart stop. Sophie reaching for Benedict with a look that isn't coy, isn't shy, isn't polite. It's demanding. And in that look, in that second, you realize episode 5 is not going to be about the chase anymore. It's about truth. Truth about who we love, truth about what we're willing to give up, and truth about whether fantasy can survive face-to-face with reality. As the episode 5 trailer unfolds, the tension between fantasy and reality intensifies, pulling every character into uncharted territory. Benedict, who has spent so long drifting through society, like a painter, searching for inspiration, is now confronted with the weight of consequences he's never had to face before. The trailer gives us fleeting glimpses of him in moments of private torment, pacing hallways, clutching letters, staring at empty rooms as if trying to summon the lady in silver, or perhaps trying to convince himself that what he desires isn't entirely unattainable. There's a fragility here we haven't seen before, a raw vulnerability that contrasts sharply with the charming, whimsical figure audiences have fallen in love with. The dreamy idealist is still there, but now he's tangled in confusion and guilt, haunted by the realization that his heart and his world might not align as neatly as he once believed. Every decision he makes in this episode seems poised on a knife's edge, and the trailer hints at the painful possibility that no matter how much he loves Sophie, he could fail to fully grasp what her reality demands. Sophie, in contrast, continues to shine as the anchor of grounded, hard-won resilience. Episode 5 promises to push her character even further, showing us not just a survivor, but someone who actively reshapes her environment to survive, and perhaps to thrive. The trailer hints at confrontations and challenges that test not only her emotional limits, but her strategic mind. We see her navigating the rigid rules of society with a sharper, almost tactical awareness, balancing self-preservation with the dangerous desire to trust and love Benedict. Her gaze in the trailer is steady, her movements deliberate. Every gesture seems to signal that she knows more than she lets on, that beneath the veneer of compliance, she is preparing for a reckoning. There's a moment, barely more than a flash, where she locks eyes with Benedict across a crowded R. What makes episode 5 so compelling is the way it blurs the lines between romantic tension and actual danger. The trailer is peppered with fleeting frames of conflict, a hurried whisper in a shadowed corridor, a slammed door, a hand pressed desperately against a shoulder. These moments suggest that Sophie and Benedict's story is no longer just about courtship, it's about negotiation. Negotiation of power, trust, and the fragile boundary between desire and self-preservation. The stakes feel immediate because the consequences aren't just emotional, they're tangible. Sophie's survival, dignity, and future are on the line, and Benedict's inability to fully comprehend her reality threatens everything they might have together. The trailer cleverly keeps the audience in suspense, teasing moments of tenderness, but never allowing them to fully settle, creating a sense of anticipation that pulses with every second. The teaser also highlights a subtle shift in pacing and tone. Scenes that once might have lingered on playful banter now cut quickly, emphasizing urgency and emotional gravity. Candles flicker in long corridors, fleeting glances carry unspoken threats, and music swells in a way that suggests not a ballroom dance, but a march toward confrontation. Benedict and Sophie's interactions are charged with a tension that goes beyond romance. It's almost tactical, each move measured, each word heavy with implication. For longtime fans, this marks a departure from the whimsical flirtations of earlier seasons and even from part 1 of this season. Here, love isn't a gentle current carrying them along. It's a storm they must navigate, and the trailer makes it clear that every misstep could have devastating consequences. Episode 5 seems poised to be a turning point where the simmering tension between Benedict and Sophie reaches a boiling point, and the trailer makes this unmistakably clear. What stands out immediately is the emotional weight carried in every frame, the weight of decisions, of secrets, of love that cannot afford to be careless. Benedict, who has spent so long lost in the clouds of his imagination, is finally forced to confront the consequences of his romantic idealism. The trailer captures him in rare moments of doubt, lingering in the shadows, staring at a letter or a candlelit room, as though each object is a reminder of choices that have already set events in motion he cannot undo. This Benedict isn't merely charming or whimsical, he's vulnerable, conflicted, and caught between the life he's always envisioned and the life that Sophie demands he acknowledge. That tension is almost tangible, creating a sense of suspense that carries through the trailer and leaves viewers wondering what kind of man he truly is when faced with the full weight of reality. Sophie, meanwhile, is sharper, more commanding than ever. The trailer emphasizes that her character is not one to be swept away by grand declarations or poetic gestures. She has survived abuse, loss, and the stripping away of her rightful place in society, and those experiences have forged a woman who approaches love and trust with caution and strategy. Every interaction she has with Benedict in this trailer feels measured, deliberate, as if she's calculating the emotional stakes of each glance, each word, each touch. There are fleeting moments where her vulnerability peeks through, but they are immediately balanced by a steely resolve that reminds audiences this is not a damsel in distress. Sophie's presence is not just a foil to Benedict's idealism, it is the anchor that forces him to face reality, to grow beyond the fantasy that has defined his life, and the trailer suggests that episode 5 will challenge her as. What makes the episode so suspenseful is the palpable sense of stakes in every scene. The trailer doesn't linger on frivolous conversation or society's polite niceties. Instead, it emphasizes the consequences of the characters' choices. There are flashes of intense confrontation, doors slammed, urgent whispers in hallways, and moments where Benedict and Sophie seem on the verge of both collision and confession. The visual storytelling is deliberate, suggesting that every look, every gesture, every pause carries the potential for disaster or revelation. For the audience, this creates an edge-of-your-seat anticipation. It's no longer enough to root for them to be together. Now, we are anxious observers of whether they can survive the collision of fantasy and reality without losing themselves in the process. One of the most compelling elements of the trailer is the way it teases Sophie and Benedict's evolving dynamic. Early in the season, their connection was tantalizing but tentative, a slow burn filled with longing and tension. Episode 5, however, seems to signal a shift from longing to reckoning. The trailer hints at moments where boundaries are tested, where hesitation is replaced by urgent need, and where both characters are forced to confront the truth about each other and themselves. Benedict's attempts to understand Sophie go beyond superficial gestures. He must reconcile his fantasy-driven perspective with the real, nuanced person standing before him. And Sophie, aware of the risks, seems ready to hold him accountable, refusing to allow love alone to justify the compromises she cannot afford. That push and pull, that fragile dance between trust and fear, creates a dramatic tension that drives the episode forward and keeps viewers deeply invested in every second. The suspense is heightened further by subtle hints in the trailer that the consequences of their relationship are about to extend beyond the pair themselves. Other characters, societal expectations, and the rigid structures of Regency London loom in the background, their presence an ever-constant reminder that personal desires do not exist in isolation. Every kiss, every confrontation, every whispered word carries weight, and the trailer shows glimpses of how these stakes could reverberate through the wider world of the ton. The trailer's pacing reinforces this feeling of inevitability. Rapid cuts interspersed with moments of stillness, each scene weighted with significance, each pause pregnant with anticipation. It's a brilliant example of storytelling that uses suspense not just to thrill, but to deepen our understanding of the characters' inner worlds and the consequences of their choices. Finally, Episode 5 seems ready to confront the uncomfortable truth that love is rarely clean or simple, especially when it exists across worlds so fundamentally different as Benedict's fantasy and Sophie's reality. The trailer teases moments where they are forced to make choices that challenge their assumptions, question their desires, and test their capacity for compromise. Will Benedict finally see Sophie as a complete person, beyond the lens of his own imagination? Will Sophie risk vulnerability in a world that has taught her to guard herself fiercely? These are the questions driving the suspense in Episode 5, and the trailer makes it clear that the answers will not come easily, and they may not come without pain. It's a turning point not just for the characters, but for the season, promising to shift the narrative into darker, more emotionally charged territory where love is inseparable from risk, and the cost of ignoring reality could be catastrophic. Episode 5 seems to be where the delicate dance between desire, trust, and danger reaches a crescendo, and the trailer makes this heartbreakingly clear. One of the most striking aspects is the emotional rawness of both Benedict and Sophie, a vulnerability that wasn't present in earlier episodes. Benedict's charm remains, but now it's tinged with tension, a kind of desperation that comes from realizing that love is not enough when reality refuses to bend. In the trailer, we see him struggling to reconcile the man he wants to be with, the man he needs to become. Every glance he throws Sophie's way is loaded with unspoken questions and doubts, and it's almost as if the weight of her world has begun to press down on him, threatening to shatter his carefully maintained fantasy. The dreamer of the Bridgerton family is still present, but episode 5 teases a moment where dreams may no longer be sufficient, and that realization is both thrilling and terrifying for the audience to witness. Sophie, meanwhile, continues to demonstrate the power and complexity that have made her such a compelling figure this season. The trailer hints at her taking decisive action, not just emotionally but strategically, as she navigates a world that has never been kind to her. Unlike the Bridgertons, whose challenges often feel distant and social, Sophie's stakes are immediate and visceral. Her safety, dignity, and agency hang in the balance with every decision. The trailer captures moments where she faces these risks head-on, refusing to be silenced or diminished, and it's in these moments that her character truly shines. For fans, Sophie is no longer just a love interest or a partner in Benedict's story. She is the force driving the narrative forward, challenging expectations, and demanding that the fantasy of Regency London acknowledge the harsh truths that so many have ignored. The suspense of episode 5 is amplified by how the trailer teases confrontations and complications with other characters. While Benedict and Sophie's relationship sits at the center, the surrounding world of the Tun threatens to impose its rigid rules at every turn. We see flashes of society's scrutiny, whispered gossip, and subtle power plays that remind viewers just how precarious their positions are. Every choice they make is not just personal but political in the context of Regency London, and the trailer makes it clear that one misstep could have far-reaching consequences. This elevates the tension beyond a simple romance, turning episode 5 into a suspenseful exploration of power, perception, and the cost of defying societal expectations. It's a reminder that in Bridgerton, love cannot exist in isolation. It is always entangled with class, privilege, and survival. Another element that makes the trailer so gripping is the way it conveys emotional stakes without needing dialogue. Benedict and Sophie's chemistry is palpable in every frame, but the tension is rarely expressed through words. Instead, the trailer relies on gestures, glances, and the charged atmosphere of each scene to communicate the stakes. The slightest brush of a hand, a locked gaze, or a hesitant step forward carries enormous weight, signaling the emotional labyrinth these two are navigating. For the audience, this creates a kind of edge-of-your-seat anticipation, because the unspoken is often more dangerous than anything said aloud. Every scene feels like a test of trust, of patience, of courage, and ultimately, a test of whether their love can survive when the world insists it shouldn't. Episode 5 also seems poised to challenge assumptions about the nature of love and obsession. Benedict's past fixation on the lady in silver continues to haunt him, and the trailer teases moments where that unresolved longing collides with the tangible, complex person in front of him, Sophie. This collie